What is up, Packers fans? Happy Victory Monday. Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast presented by Habish and Rotier. Yes, that is correct. I am so insanely excited to be partnering with Habish. And here's the thing. I had the opportunity to meet with their team. They're real. They're organic. They're right here in Wisconsin. They're real people like you and me. And I just loved working with them from day one. And here's the other thing. They are passionate about the Green Bay Packers. Like, it's not fake. It's not something of like, hey, tell us we like love the Pack. Like, no, they are legitimate Green Bay Packers fans. It's really fun to work with them. We were talking about Marshawn Lloyd the other day and when is Marshawn Lloyd going to come back? And like, it's real. It's organic. And I've absolutely enjoyed partnering with them already. I'm so excited to be joining in with them on this new partnership. And here's the thing, right? Habish has gone out of their way to Pack-A-Day and said, hey, we'd like Pack-A-Day to be part of the Habish and Rotier family, which is a really cool statement. And if you have the opportunity, please do your best to support them as well. Tell them that you heard about their awesome reputation right here on the Pack-A-Day podcast, and make sure you're checking them out whenever you have any needs whatsoever. And when you call Habish, here's the really cool thing. You'll talk to a lawyer directly, all right? Their number is 800-242-2874 or 800-2HABISH. Easy to remember, 800-2HABISH. You can also visit their website at habish.com. Habish and Rotier, national reputation, hometown service. Trust me, guys, it's who you're going to want to go to, and I cannot thank them enough again for being part of the Pack-A-Day family. So, Habish, I'm excited to be partnering with you, and thank you for being the presenting sponsor of today's show. Friends, go check them out. Over 100 brand new Pack-A-Day podcast YouTube members as well. The gifting of Pack-A-Day podcast memberships in the chats has been unbelievable and out of this world. Thank you to all of you who have signed up. Thank you for all the gift memberships. It has been overwhelming, so I cannot thank you enough for all of your support. All right, and now let's jump in right away to Packers Bears. A win is a win is a win. However, this was a frustrating win, right? Matt LaFleur said it in the post-game press conference. Never apologize for a win. We're never going to apologize for a win. And I totally agree with that. I don't think in this league you can take anything for granted on any given Sunday, and you take a W in that W column every single freaking time, especially against your rival, especially against the Chicago Bears. You take it. And I tweeted this out on Sunday night, or maybe it was super early Monday morning, one of the two. I think it was Sunday night. But I tweeted out, hey, when I'm going and watching Bears fans super upset on TikTok or on Twitter and screaming and pulling their hair out because they lost to the Packers for an 11th straight time, do I really care in that moment that it wasn't the prettiest victory in the world? No, I do not. That was enjoyable every single time, and I will never tire of beating the Chicago Bears. Period. End of story. That's that piece of it. However, as I mentioned, this was an incredibly frustrating game from the Packers because we know that they did not play a good game. They did not play their brand of football. And I want to always talk to you, because I think this is important, about the lens that I see this through. And I think one of the things that we take for granted in pretty much every walk of life, or just don't talk about, is that everyone has a different lens of their reality, right? And everyone's different experiences shape that lens. I've talked about this in the past of when I was growing up, when I was a kid. If there was a G on that helmet, I don't care if it was an exhibition game. I don't care if it was the Pro Bowl game. If there was a Packer in that game, I was ride or die, live or die, I should say, and living and breathing by whether or not Green Bay would come out with a win in that game. I did not care. I didn't care if it was an exhibition. I didn't care if there were 40-point underdogs or 40-point favorites. If there was a Packer in the game, by God, they needed to find a way to win. All right? That's all that mattered. Nothing else mattered to me. All right? My lens has changed a little bit over time. And now the lens that I look at this through is different, and it can vary year by year dependent upon what expectations are. So I want to give you the idea of the lens that I look at this through, because I will tell you wholeheartedly, probably some of the people that get most frustrated with me, or like the comments that I think sometimes people get, weirded out by or whatever, just like don't see eye to eye with it, is usually because when the Packers lose, I say, hey, it wasn't that bad. Or when they win, I say, it wasn't that great. And sometimes the wins are awesome, and you just point out how awesome they were. And sometimes the losses are terrible, and you just point out how awful the losses were. But sometimes there's some losses that you go back and watch, and you're like, oh, it was actually not that bad. It was pretty good. And sometimes you look at the wins, and you're like, oh, that wasn't very pretty. That was some ugly football. And this falls in the latter. This wasn't very pretty. This was some ugly football. But I want to give you the lens that I see this through. Because for me, with this team, All right. It is not, and for most teams that are competitive, this is mostly the case. Last year was a little bit different. In some of the years where you're maybe not having the expectations or Brett Hundley's your quarterback, like you change expectations a little bit, right? But for me, what I'm watching for with this Green Bay Packers team is A, signs of growth, and B, like if we do think that Green Bay has any sort of championship aspirations, you have to put on the table what it would take to do that, to actually go out and win a Super Bowl. And what does that mean? What it would take for Green Bay to go out and win a Super Bowl, in all likelihood, is going to be 4 consecutive wins, 3 of which are probably on the road, 1 on a neutral site, all against playoff caliber opponents. That's what it's going to take to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. So what I am looking at is not, did they get a W in the win column in a regular season game? I love that they got a W in the win column in a regular season game. That's awesome. Winning is way better than losing. And I appreciate wins. And as I mentioned at the onset, I will not apologize for that. And I love when the Packers beat the Chicago Bears. All of that is fantastic. But what I look at is, are there signs that this team can go on a 4-game stretch in January and February and play good enough football consistently to make that run? And when I see a game like today, I have major reasons for concern, and we'll get to that. And we'll go over some of the things that still need to be improved. And I think some of the hope going into this game, as you were facing a Bears team that has struggled, and you have a Packers team that I think needed to learn some lessons from that Detroit Lions game, and just in the first half of the season in general, and had a bye week, had the opportunity to address some of these concerns, that they were going to come out and play a better brand of football and hopefully show signs of improvement in some key ways. Now, they did in some. Penalties were way down. There was 1 drop. No dumb interceptions from Jordan Love. There was an interception. We'll talk about that as well, but no awful decision-making plays, right? There were some signs of growth and improvement in different areas of the game, and we'll go through all of that. There were also some signs of decline and or just, not signs of improvement, right? Lack of improvement. The pass rush is an example of that in this game. The red zone offense is an example of that in this game. So there were still things that you were looking at that you're like, I don't know. It's very difficult to see at this moment in this game of like, all right, they're starting to put it together. They're putting it in the right direction. And if anything, I look at this sort of game and the way that they played this game overall and said they still have a lot of work to do in the remainder of the season to get to the point that they want to go to. And that's okay. All right. I am not saying that everything is decided right here today, that we have to make this ultimate determination as to whether or not Green Bay can win a Super Bowl today. That would be silly. At this point last year, they just beat the Chargers in a game that they didn't play great in, right? And it was sort of their first kind of good victory, which actually ended up not being that great of a victory because the Chargers were not a very good team last year in the end of the season. But that was kind of their first, like, hey, that's a good victory. And then they beat, like, after that, they beat the Chiefs and they beat the Lions. And then they would go on to the playoffs and beat the Cowboys and be competitive with San Francisco. At this point last year, there was no signs that there would be any sort of playoff run or like any sort of significant playoff run. And they were this close to going to an NFC championship game. And they played their best season or the best football of their season down the stretch. So I'm not saying that everything needs to be written in stone today. I'm just saying, if you look at this game through that lens of could they make a 4-game run and get some very impressive opponents, mostly on the road? Man, I didn't see it today. That's not the football that they want to be playing in the second half of the season to show that they can go on that run. But they were resilient. They found a way to win. And there were some positives to take away from this as well. And in fact, if you want to look at it from another lens, because here's the last thing I'll say before we get into the meat and potatoes of all this, is I think there's always different ways to look at it. And I always love to spin it in a very variety of different directions to see, like, how does this look? How does this feel? And I kind of like to look at it, as you guys probably know by now, from all different angles to see, like, what is the real team, or what is the true story? So this is another way of looking at it. What if I told you going into this game that Jordan Love would be 13 of 17 for 261 yards, a touchdown, and 113 passer rating? You'd be like, all right, yeah, that sounds good. I'll take that. What if I told you the Packers would run 25 times for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns? I'm like, okay, yeah, against the Bears defense, yeah, I'll take that. What if I told you that the Packers would hold the Bears to 19 points? Maybe you would have said, well, they haven't exactly been putting points up lately, but I like my odds of Green Bay putting up more than 20 points on offense. Okay, I'll take holding them to 19 points. If I told you they would block a field goal, what if I told you that Green Bay would only punt one time in this game? What if I told you there would only be one turnover by Green Bay, right? It wasn't some like 3 or 4 turnover game. What if I told you that they only had one drop, no missed field goals, no missed extra points, and only 3 penalties for 25 yards? What if I told you that Green Bay would hold Chicago to 5.8 yards per play while putting up 8.5 yards per play on their own? What if I told you that Green Bay's drives would go 70 yards, then they had one bad 18-yard drive, but then they would go 61 yards, 70 yards, 75 yards, and 78 yards? Those were their only drives in the game. What if I were to tell you all of that? I guarantee you probably sign up for, if not all of it, pretty darn close to everything that I just mentioned. There was actually in the aggregate, or like if you're looking at it from like little piece by piece and not like actually going through the stream of consciousness of the game of like, oh my God, what is going on? There is actually plenty of positives in this game once again. So then the answer, the question I should say becomes, well, what went wrong? Why did Green Bay not play better? Why did they not dominate this game to some extent? Why was Chicago ultimately in this game and had every opportunity to win it up until the very end when Carl Brooks got his fingertip on that ball? And yes, Green Bay did win this game, right? 2019, you take the win. But what went wrong? Red zone offense. That's the first thing. And point production. When you have 2 red zone drives on drives that went, 60, 70 yards on both of those drives, and you do not get any points out of it, that is going to kill you. You go 12 plays, 61 yards in a drive that ends in an interception and takes points off the board. You go 7 plays, 75 yards and have a turnover on downs on a drive that takes points off the board. That could have been 14 points. At minimum should have been 6, and instead it's 0. That's going to put the other team in position to steal that game from you because you had opportunities in the red zone and you got nothing out of it. 2 times. You got nothing out of plays where you should have at minimum got 6 points. So that was number 1. Red zone offense reared its ugly head again, and in 2 different situations, you ended up with 0 points on 2 red zone drives. The other thing, 3rd and 4th down offense and defense. And these are the money down. These are the money situations, right? When you talk about Green Bay doing specific situations in practice, going back to minicamp, OTA, training camp, 2-minute drill is one of them, which didn't really play a factor, although Jordan did definitely put in that drive towards the end. It wasn't a true sort of 2-minute drill, but it was definitely a game-winning drive. But the other ones are red zone offense and defense and 3rd and 4th downs. Like those are the ones that you practice over and over and over and drill them and drill them and drill them. And the red zone offense in this one, once again, was not good enough. But the 3rd and 4th down offense and defense, the Packers on 3rd downs, 1 of 5, 20%. And they were 0 of 1 on 4th downs. So they had 6 opportunities on 3rd and 4th down. They went 1 for 6 on those opportunities. The Bears, meanwhile, were 9 of 16 on 3rd downs. And even when they didn't get those 3rd downs, they were 3 of 3 on 4th down. So they executed in the money downs far better than Green Bay did. And that was a huge issue in this game. If you want to boil down like the main reason why Chicago was close and had the opportunity to win, you can boil it right down to red zone offense for Green Bay and 3rd and 4th down efficiency for both teams. That was the difference in the game and why Chicago had every right to win this game. If you look at the Bears' drives in this game, 8 plays, 34 yards, field goal, 10 plays, 51 yards, and they punted, 13 plays, 76 yards, touchdown, 10 plays, 61 yards, field goal, 11 plays, 78 yards, touchdown, 12 plays, 44 yards, punt, 7 plays, 42 yards, missed field goal. Every single drive went at least 7 plays, and all of them would have went at least 8 or more had the last drive just not run out of time, right? 8 plays, 10 plays, 13 plays, 10 plays, 11 plays, 12 plays, 7 plays. That was Chicago's drives on offense. And the yardage-wise, 34, 51, 76, 61, 78, 44, 42. Their worst drive was their first drive, which was a 34-yard drive that went for a field goal. That was their worst drive of the game. They dominated time of possession. 36 minutes and 21 seconds for Chicago, 23-39 for Green Bay. Just absolutely dominated time of possession. And here's the other thing. This game played out exactly the way that Chicago would have wanted it to, right? Other than the result. But they played the brand of football that Chicago has had success with and that you sort of expected a little bit more of going into the season. They have a good defense. They have a really good special teams. And they have an offense that in this game found a way to play ball control offense. That's the Chicago Bears formula. It has been going back to the Kyle Ortons and all the way back, however far back you want to go. Even when Rex Grossman was there, Justin Fields. If this team is winning, it hasn't been with great quarterback play, right? It has been with fantastic defense, unbelievable special teams, and ball control offense and a game manager at quarterback. Now, clearly, they are not hoping that Caleb Williams is going to stay as a game manager, but right now, he is not ready, clearly, for a full, platter of putting everything on there and having him be the guy. So what you have to do right now until he gets to that point, if he gets to that point, and I think he will, but until he gets there, you have to make it a little bit more digestible. And I thought Thomas Brown, the new Bears offensive coordinator, did a phenomenal job of making it more digestible for Caleb Williams, not having him have to do the heavy lifting. And then he also made a couple big throws when you needed him to. But this was the formula for Chicago. Make the game condensed, make it so that both teams have fewer possessions, and then go out and play efficient offense, play great defense, and win the turnover battle, play good special teams, and that's going to be the result of what you want in this game. And really, had it not been for that last part, the good special teams, the blocked kick, they come out with a win. But Green Bay did just enough to win. Chicago did just enough to lose. But Green Bay sort of played a Bears style of game in this one, and it almost played right into Chicago's hands. And I think a lot of this game really came down. We talked about the red zone offense, and we talked about, obviously third and fourth downs, but there were a lot of issues on defense that reared its ugly head. And when you look at it through that lens of, can this be a defense that wins in January and February? It's very clear that there's still a lot of work to be done. And that starts once again, we're going to talk about it, is the pressure. Now, Brenton Cox got a sack, completely unblocked on the play. TJ Slayton got a sack. Now, that was a pressure that did get set up, or the pressure by Rashawn Gary set up the TJ Slayton sack. So I thought that was a good rush by Gary to get a little bit of, I would say pressure, but he kind of bull rushed the offensive tackle back into the pocket a little bit, which forced Caleb Williams to step up, and then TJ Slayton made the play. It was fairly good complimentary football, though I think TJ Slayton kind of was just there. It's not like he got any penetration, but still, he got him to the ground, and Rashawn Gary sort of caused that. Then, of course, Rashawn Gary had that really nice sack to set up 3rd and 19. From there, didn't go so great, but I thought those were two good plays by Rashawn Gary. But outside of that, on the day as a whole, it didn't seem to matter if they were bringing 3 or 7 or anything in between. They had a very tough time getting to Caleb Williams and certainly getting him to the ground. Kingsley Enagbare had him dead to rights on 2 different occasions and could not get him in the dirt. And I thought that was another issue in this game, was trying to get Caleb Williams to the ground and just, again, getting that pressure that would have set the defense up for better success. They just couldn't do it again. I thought the easy completions, a lot of that was set up, I would say, again, more by the lack of pressure and just allowing Caleb Williams some time. But there was a lot of short intermediate stuff open. And Green Bay, I think, maybe bet a little bit on the fact that Caleb Williams wasn't going to be able to dink and dunk them to death throughout the entirety of the game, but he kind of did. Now, to Jeff Hafley's credit, he brought a variety of blitzes, and Green Bay just couldn't get home on those either. I do kind of wonder if there was a little bit of a tell in this game, because Chicago seemed to have a bit of a heads up on what Green Bay was doing defensively. If they were blitzing, they had answers for it. If they were not blitzing, they had answers for it. It just seemed like Chicago was maybe a half tick ahead of Jeff Hafley in this one, but there was a lot of easy completions. I thought tackling was a major issue once again. Xavier McKinney had arguably his worst day as a Packer, a couple big missed tackles throughout the course of the game, and it wasn't just him. Edgerrin Cooper took a bad angle on a couple different occasions on Caleb Williams. There was some bad tackling in the red zone that led to touchdowns. That reared its ugly head again. Green Bay could not get off the field. We talked about that. 3rd and 4th down defense was an issue. They couldn't get a turnover. And then I think the biggest issue is Green Bay's offense worked to get back in that game, took the lead, had a 1-point lead. You're kicking off to this Bears offense, which has been, just state the obvious, they had been abysmal as of late. And the game is in your hands, defense. There's been an issue for just a long time now. We didn't even need to bring up defensive coordinator names, because we can go back multiple defensive coordinators, and this has been an issue. Offense gives you the lead, they take it back, and you've got the opportunity to get off the field and get a win for your team. And to make things even more sort of egregious here is you did a good job of getting them into 3rd and 19. It's 3rd and 19. Get off the damn field. That's all you have to do. 2 plays. Don't allow 19 yards on 2 plays. They're predictable. You know they're passing. You know they want to get the ball down the field, and yet they convert. And they go right down the field and right into field goal range. That's what's most distressing about the defense in this one, is Chicago really is, the first two plays went about as bad as they could, and Chicago still had no issue getting that ball into makeable field goal range for the game-winning kick. Thankfully bailed out by the special teams, but that's not a exciting end result for the defense in that one. If the defense holds on that drive, 3rd and 19, gets him to 3rd and 19 and like gets a couple pass breakups or something, or, Xavier McKinney gets a walk-off pick or something like that, I could look at this game differently and say, hey, they held them to 19 points. You're under 20. That's a winning performance on most days in the NFL, and they got the game-winning walk-off decision, right? I could live with that a little bit more, but they didn't. They allowed the Bears to go right down the field, get into field goal range for what should have been a game-winning field goal had it not been for a huge play by the special teams. Now, I've detailed already a lot of things that have not gone according to plan in this game. Clearly, some things that Green Bay needs to continue to work on. But it was not all bad. There was a lot of good in this game. Four catches, 150 yards on 4 targets for Christian Watson. I thought he was fantastic, coming up with multiple big catches in big scenarios. The play that he made on the deep ball that Jordan gave him the opportunity to go and win it, and he comes down with that one. Of course, the game-winning drive, he makes a diving catch, reels that one in, and then gets up and runs a huge chunk of the rest of the way. I mean, that was the breakout game from Christian Watson that we were sort of, expecting at some point and hoping for, and it was exactly what Green Bay needed. I mean, 150 yards on 4 targets is a massive day. And I still say, I think Green Bay's got to find the way to get him the ball a little bit more, because he is so dynamic and so explosive, and he can bring a ton to this offense. Do you think you have to look at finding ways to maybe manufacture some stuff for Christian Watson a little bit more? But when given the opportunity in this one, he was phenomenal. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries, 76 yards, 4.2 yards per carry and a touchdown, 4 catches, 58 yards on 5 targets, had 22 total touches for 134 yards and a touchdown. I thought he was fantastic. Couple cuts maybe here and there where maybe he could have put his head down a little bit more and, maybe just gotten some tough yards rather than trying to maybe make a cut outside. Maybe a couple plays like that. But I thought overall Josh Jacobs still played really, really well in this game and continued his really strong play in 2024 and a really big signing for Green Bay. Now, Brenton Cox is an interesting discussion. 2 big plays, both of them completely unblocked. It's just good to see somebody get in the backfield and make some plays. I said this on the post-game chat. I think Jamal Reynolds makes those plays. Joe Johnson makes those plays. Preston Smith, Kingsley Enagbare, LVN. There's a lot of defensive ends in the history of the Green Bay Packers, some which we, don't even name anymore for obvious reasons. I think could have made both of those plays, right? But Brenton Cox did his job, got his guy to the ground. In other situations, even in this game, Kingsley Enagbare had Caleb Williams dead to rights a couple times, could not make the play, right? So kudos to Brenton Cox for making the plays, even if they were a little bit silver plattered for him and walked him right down the red carpet and said, here, take these 2 big plays. But he made the plays nonetheless, which was fun to see. And I thought Rashawn Gary did come up big at the end with those 2 big plays. You'd like to see that a little bit more consistently. And you would have liked to have seen them obviously pay it off with getting off the field after 3rd and 19. But I did feel final drive, 2 big rushes, including a sack for Rashawn Gary. It was great to see that. And on the one where he got the sack, gets under the offensive lineman's pads, bull rush, speed to power. This is what I'm dying for, Rashawn Gary. Just give me that more often, because I really think he can do it more often. So if he can do that, if that's a sign of hopefully things to come, that would be a really big step for Rashawn Gary in this defense. And then, of course, there's the special teams, right? Special teams was fantastic. They didn't have to do a ton in this game. Couple, not so maybe great kick returns by Keyshawn Nixon. So this is like the ultimate bizarro special teams game. A, they were the reason Green Bay won at the end instead of losing at the end. And B, usually when Green Bay does something well in special teams, it's Keyshawn Nixon as a kick returner and everything else goes wrong. So this is the ultimate bizarro special teams game. But outside of, Keyshawn Nixon, having a couple nondescript returns, Jaden Reed had a big punt return, like a 16-yarder that got them from the 5-yard line to the 21-yard line instead of being backed up on that final drive and basically in no man's land. He got that out to the 21 and gave Green Bay decent field position to start that drive. I thought that was huge. Daniel Whalen's one punt was down. It should have probably been down at like the 2 to 1 yard line. Corey Ballantyne probably touched that thing a little bit too quick, but still it was a phenomenal punt by Daniel Whalen, pinned him inside the 10-yard line. And then, of course, the block kick at the end. Brandon McManus made his extra points when given the opportunity. Like, this was about as good of a special teams performance that we have seen in some time. And without the block kick at the end, Green Bay does not win this game. So huge day for the Packers special teams. Rich Bisaccia had a vision that there was going to be a blocked field goal or extra point in this game. They got it when it mattered most. Kudos to Carl Brooks. Massive play. And the difference between being, 6-4 and 7-3. So nice job by the special teams. Let's talk a little bit about Jordan Love. I thought for the most part, he played a really efficient day of football and didn't make any bad decisions. All right. Thought he threw the ball away. I mean, what is he? Again, 13 of 17 on the day with I think 1 or 2 throwaways. And, I think there was a drop by Romeo Doubs in there as well. And then you had the interception. And the interception was a different breed of interception than we've kind of seen from Jordan Love so far this year. The interceptions that we've seen from Jordan have either been unlucky, the Bo Melton fall play, right? Plays where he kind of put the ball into some contested situations, some really poor decisions, those, or just not seeing a defender, right? Where he threw to like Dontavian Wicks and the defender cut in. Like that's what we've seen from Jordan so far. What we have not seen from Jordan is just, hey, he made the right read. The guy was open. He made the throw and he just missed the throw, and that led to a pick. We haven't really seen that aspect of it. Well, unfortunately, in this game, that's the aspect that reared its ugly head, and we did see another Jordan Love interception. Now, not all interceptions are the same. I love the fact that he made better decisions in this one, took care of the football. I thought he took a lot of checkdowns, took what was there, and there was just this one play where he's got Tucker Kraft open. I know it, like if you go and watch L22, he's not fading away. He's not off of 1 foot. He's not backing up. He's standing straight. He's in the pocket, sees Kraft, throws it to him, and just airmails it. Just a miss. Now, talked about this a little bit in the live post-game show too, but at some point, it doesn't really matter how you get there. At some point, when there's an interception every game, you got there nonetheless. And I get one of those was a fluke play against Arizona to Bo Melton. I get some of these, again, are not all created equal. But at some point, it doesn't matter. And when you have an interception, and regardless of the variety of interception that it is, it's still a damning play. It's still a really big negative in your ledger. So I thought Jordan was really good in this one. I thought he was a lot more mobile. I thought he came up with some really big plays when he needed to. Obviously, some huge throws to Christian Watson. I thought outside of that one play, he was, pretty damn near perfect for a good chunk of the game. But that's a red zone pick due to a bad throw. That's on Jordan. So nowhere near a perfect game for Jordan. Still areas where he needs to improve upon. I loved his decision-making. I thought that was a huge step. Thought he looked healthy. Thought he looked spry. Didn't seem like the injury was really affecting him at all. But yeah, I thought overall, nice game from Jordan. Just the one bad play. Came at the worst time. A little bit unlucky that the defender was chilling right there too when he overthrew it. But that's what happens when you miss. And you miss in the red zone. There's usually going to be players around it. And there was in this specific situation. So I thought that was a solid day, all but one throw. Outside of that, I thought it was really, really good in this one. All right, let's talk about the decision to try for the touchdown instead of going for the field goal. I know a much talked about play, much bandied about. Let's go over the situation. 4th and goal at the 6-yard line, 11 and a half minutes remaining. You're down by 5. You kick a field goal, you're down by 2. But when you kick that field goal, let's assume you make the field goal, first of all, which they should at that area of the field. Like that's going to get made far more often than not. But we did see some in the NFL missed from that distance on Sunday throughout the league. But let's assume you make the field goal. You're down by 2. You kick off with, 11 and a half minutes left, basically, maybe a little bit less than that. You're down by 2. You kick off. What usually happens, you're going to kick it out of the end zone, and Chicago's going to get it at the 30-yard line. I think that field position is noteworthy because I think one of the things that Green Bay was banking on is, hey, if we don't get this, they're going to be pinned deep in their own territory, and we should be able to get this back with good field position. That's what they were hoping for, right? The other thing you have to remember is getting that ball on the 30-yard line, right? Green Bay's defense gave up drives to that point of 34 yards, 51 yards, 76 yards, 61 yards, and 78 yards. Their last 3 drives that they had were touchdown, field goal, and touchdown. And I'm not cherry picking those drives, by the way. Those were every Bears drive up until that point. 34 yards, 51 yards, 76 yards, 61 yards, 78 yards, with the last 3 being touchdown, field goal, touchdown. The worst of those, if they get another 34-yard drive, That gets you to the opposing 36-yard line, which is a 53-yard field goal attempt. Now there's more time off the clock. You're down by 5 again, and you didn't really gain anything in that situation, right? So, and then on the worst side, if you give up a touchdown, now you're down by 2 scores. Now you're down by 2 scores still, even by just kicking the field goal. The touchdown gives you the opportunity to take the lead right there, and you don't know if you're going to get the ball in that situation again. This might be your lone opportunity. And here's the thing too. Again, as I kind of mentioned, if you fail there, Chicago's going to take over 1st and 10 on their like 1-2 yard line, worst like 5-6 yard line. And you feel like, hey, our defense should be able to get us off the field. Now they didn't. They did force the punt, but it wasn't back where you wanted it to. There's a big 3rd down play where I think it was Rashawn Gary had the opportunity to make the stop behind the line, and Rashawn Johnson just barely got to the line to gain and picked up the 1st down. That was a massive play, but they did force Chicago to punt. They were still only down 5, and then they went down and scored the touchdown. But I have no major issue with that decision there. I love the aggressiveness. I love the want and desire to get the touchdown. Maybe you're chasing points a little bit, but I do think the 30-yard getting the ball at the 30-yard line and the field position game completely changes the calculus to some extent, because you're giving them 2 first downs and they're pretty darn close to field goal range, right? So I don't have a major issue with it. You can argue to take the points, absolutely. I wouldn't have hated if they went for the field goal. I know for me, when the 3rd down failed, I immediately said go. I would have gone for it, no questions asked. It wasn't even a question to me. And I know in hindsight they didn't get it, but I'll take Jordan. I'll take the offense with an opportunity to get it in. Jordan bought time. Bears covered it up really, really well. But I don't have a major issue with that. And again, you don't know what situations you're going to get into the rest of the way, which is an argument too to potentially take the points. But that might be your best opportunity the remainder of the game to score a touchdown. You might not get it again. They took it. They didn't get it. And they still got the ball back, went down and scored a touchdown, took the lead, and did find a way to win the game. So I don't hate it. Hindsight's 20/20. But I can certainly understand what Matt LaFleur was thinking in that situation. I can also, by the way, understand if you would have taken the points. I get it to some extent, but no question for me, I would have gone for that. Red zone offense. I want to talk a little bit about that, because what I saw overall is that Matt LaFleur was a brutal play caller in the red zone. What is he thinking? What is he possibly doing with these play calls in the red zone? Matt LaFleur is a fraud. Well, let's go over it. I think there was some good stuff. I think there was some bad stuff. So these were the plays in the red zone. You had 1st and 10 on Chicago's 15-yard line. You got the free play, Jaden Reed touchdown. Oh, that seems pretty good. That's a good start. Then the next one, you had a 1st and 10 at Chicago's 14-yard line, and you got Josh Jacobs a 9-yard run. I liked the play call there. I liked the play design. It was well executed. Picks up 9 yards. You get to 2nd and 1. All right, we're 2 of 2 so far. I like both of those play calls. 2nd and 1. I know a lot of people didn't like this. Just give the ball to Josh Jacobs. Just give the ball to Josh Jacobs. 2nd one at the 5-yard line. Just give the ball to Josh Jacobs. They ran a play I love. So it looks like a read option. It's a play that Green Bay, like just what you're presenting to the Bears is a play that you run over and over and over. It's a fake handoff inside with a little bubble screen on the outside. Okay. This is a staple play, the fake hand or the run pass option where you can either hand it inside to Josh Jacobs or throw to Jaden Reed on the outside is a play that they run over and 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 over again. We've seen it 1,000 times this year. That's an exaggeration, but you get my point. So they go fake handoff to Josh Jacobs, fake bubble to Jaden Reed, and then we've seen this play before and it's worked unbelievably. And then Dontavian Wicks goes and fakes the block and then runs a slant on the back end. And I can't tell, there's 2 or 3 times at least that Matt LaFleur's run a version of this and the slant's wide open for a touchdown. I mean, wide bleep open for a touchdown. Chicago covered it. You have the fake handoff inside to Jacobs, which they had to buy to some extent. You've got the fake bubble to Jaden Reed on the outside, or the fake, little screen to the outside, which they had to buy. Because again, Green Bay runs both of those plays incessantly. They do it every game. And now you're adding a wrinkle on top of it where Wicks is going to fake the block, run a slant, and should be wide open. And they covered it. I have no problem with the play call. I love the play call. The play design is beautiful. Tip your cap to the Bears. No problem with that play. So I'm 3 for 3. Now, because the play took a little bit longer and the play wasn't there, then Jordan had to buy time and roll out and try to throw it downfield. And by that time, you had the illegal man downfield on the play. And it ended up pushing them back to 2nd and 6, which is what it is. But I love the play call. Just the Bears covered it. Tip your cap. 2nd and 6. from the Chicago 10-yard line. Now, this one I hated. The run to Jaden Reed on the sweep to the outside. Now, they've run this play with some success. I didn't love the play call here. I will also say Chicago played this about as perfectly as you possibly could. In general, getting the ball in Jaden Reed's hands, usually pretty good proposition. Usually that's a good thing. I will say the sweep runs, the jet sweeps and the reverses and things like that have not been working great for Green Bay. Teams have been a little bit more on top of it. The Bears defensive backs just hit it right away. Like they flew to the football, flew downhill, made sure they got to their landmarks and just stopped it cold. There was nothing Jaden Reed could have done. Did not love that play call though. That to me is number one in the like that one was not good. All right. All right. Then you had 3rd and 11 and you had the Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson high-low. So you're hoping you're going to get a high-low, and if they take Christian on the back end, you're going to hit Kraft. If they take Kraft, you're going to hit Christian on the back end. All right. It's a good play call in that situation. And you've got Tucker Kraft, again, wide bleep open on this play, and Jordan should hit him. And the way that Tucker has been running after the catch, you like your odds of picking up or at least having a chance to pick up the first down. If he doesn't, you probably end up with a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2, and you can decide if you want to go for it or not. Instead, Jordan just misses it, and it's an interception. It ends up being a brutal play. Didn't hate the play call at all. So just one so far. All right, so that's where we're at so far. You get to the Watson or the interception that was attempted for Kraft, I should say. All right, now you get 1st and goal from Chicago's 7 later in the game. Josh Jacobs' touchdown run. All right, that one seems pretty good. So we're still only kind of at one play that they've called in the red zone that I don't like to any extent so far. And that's the Jaden Reed run to the right. Next time you get 1st and goal on the 8-yard line. You get a Josh Jacobs run. Ben Sims gets destroyed. Jacobs probably should have just put his head down and run forward. He tried cutting it to the outside. He loses a yard. I don't mind it. Before you're asking, a lot of people on Twitter, at least not maybe you, a lot of people are saying, run the ball to Jacobs, run the ball to Jacobs, run the ball to Jacobs. Well, last time they ran the ball to Jacobs, he got a 7-yard touchdown run. Now the next time they run a similar play, it's stuffed. Ben Sims gets blown up and they lose a yard on the play. Not a bad play call. It didn't execute. The Bears executed it better and Green Bay didn't execute. Not a bad play call, just a bad run. It didn't work. Bad execution. Now, 2nd and goal from Chicago's 9-yard line. Josh Jacobs runs for 4 yards. I would say this was not my favorite. I thought it was a little bit uninventive, uncreative, if you will. I thought they could have done something a little bit better there. A 4-yard run in that situation isn't brutal. It sets you up at 3rd and goal from the 5, though. I didn't like this one. I didn't love this one. It's not a major egregious play call, but I thought there could have been something a little bit better there. So we'll take that if we'll be hard on it and say that, all right, that's number 2 that I didn't like. And then you had 2 back-to-back pass plays on 3rd and 4th down. Now, the 3rd down play, Love got a little bit bouncy. Jaden Reed is to the outside on a check down with a blocker in front of him. If you get it to Reed, I think you have a chance to get in the end zone. Love got a little bit bouncy on the play. He rolls to his right. There's nothing open. I think technically takes a 1-yard sack on the play. They were going to throw. The Bears knew they were going to throw. The Packers knew they were going to throw. Everyone in the stadium knew they were going to throw. Bears covered it up well. Thought, again, Jordan maybe could have played that one a little bit better, but I didn't love the play call. We can be harsh on that one if we want, but you're going to call a pass play there, and Chicago knew it was a pass play, and they covered it well. 4th down from the 6-yard line now. They try to get Jaden Reed in the back corner of the end zone. Bears once again covered it well. This is again another one where I think you could maybe make the argument they could have done something a little bit maybe more creative here. Love tries to get outside, scramble for it, doesn't get there. You end up being stopped at the 1.5, 2-yard line, somewhere in that range. I thought those last couple play calls, the last 3 really, the run, the uninventive run for 4 yards, and then 2 pass plays that really just didn't have a ton of options attached to them. I thought that could have been a little bit better. Those 3, willing to say, yeah, needed some better play calls there, although I think some of it is with the benefit of hindsight. Then you've got 1st and 10 from the Chicago 14, and Jordan Love scrambles for 13 yards to basically the 1-inch line. Then you get 1st and goal from Chicago's 1, and you get the quarterback sneak for a touchdown. Then you get the 2-point conversion, which looked like some version of read option, and it was a nightmare play. So that's another big, like that one is brutal play. So the 2 I hated, Jaden Reed on the sweep and the 2-point conversion play. I thought those were very uninventive, bad play calls in that situation. I thought there were 3 that you could be a little bit nitpicky on. The 2 pass plays on 3rd and 4th down, the run play on 2nd down for 4 yards that you could make an argument and say needed something a little bit better there. Think, again, maybe a little bit with the benefit of hindsight, but 13 plays in the red zone, 5 plays that I think you can have some question mark on, 2 plays that were really not good at all. but I didn't think it was some, oh my God, what is Matt LaFleur doing sort of situation. I think they needed a couple better calls and a couple plays. I thought there was some really good stuff too that he did call, that he did get to. And I think part of it is tipping your cap to the Bears defense, who played a couple of those plays that were great play calls really, really, really well. And even some of the ones that weren't great play calls, they played it really well. They go 2 for 4 in the red zone. It's not good enough. They still have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, but I did not think that this was just a pure play calling issue. 8 good to really good plays, 5, maybe 3 not so good, and 2 really bad. That's how I would kind of grade it. If you probably get the 2 field goals, by the way, on those 2 drives, you probably feel a little bit different. You have 4 red zone opportunities. You get 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. You get 20 points out of it. You probably feel a little bit better with those results. 4 red zone drives, 2 touchdowns, and 2 turnovers, basically. That feels a whole heck of a lot different. So definitely still needs to be better. I'm not saying like, oh my God, it's amazing, but I think there were some things that they did better than maybe it looked like at first glance. Quay Walker. I'll still want to go back and watch this a little bit more on all 22. I went and watched some of it. Too many mistakes, too many opportunities to make plays that he couldn't turn into plays. I thought that 4th down play where he had the opportunity for the sack and just went sort of all, inflatable and or wacky, inflatable tube man on him. Like, there's just opportunities for him there to make plays, and he doesn't make them. There is no high-end big reward plays from Quay, and too many plays where he gets dragged on the tackle or he's not making the instinctive play. I thought the coverage play where he broke up, if you go watch that on all 22, that's a good play. It was a really good play from Quay. Like to run up the seam with him, and then like it's not just a seam, then the receiver starts to get wide and he runs with him. Thought he could have played it better at the catch point a little bit, but he knocked it away. He made a great play. Like ultimately he made a great play on it. So there was some okay stuff on tape that I watched. I'll go through and grade it obviously later this week. PFF, by the way, their preliminary grade on him, it's not a final grade yet. They go through and audit it, but their preliminary grade on him is a slight positive in this game. Man, I don't know. We'll see. I hope that I can go back and say, you know what? Actually played pretty decent. There's too many mistakes, too many opportunities missed for me with Quay. I said before the game in the pregame show, hey, I don't know that you need to bench him completely. Figure out a nice role for him, figure out a nice niche, and just like create a little bit more competition there. Right now, I'm just like, I think I need something different. And it's probably well past that time, by the way. But I'm talking even more than just competition here. I'm saying it might just be time to go with Isaiah McDuffie and Eric Wilson and Adrian Cooper and maybe even a little bit of Tyron Hopper at this point. Just a struggle out there for Quay. Just really is. And it feels like the amount of mistakes and missed opportunities are not made up by big plays that he's making in any real way. So it just needs to be better. Needs to be better at that position. And I'm not sold in any way, shape, or form that Quay Walker is the answer there. And we're 2.5 years in. Would love if he just tore it up the rest of the way. No question about it. Not a thing where I'm trying to be like, oh, I just hope this guy fails. No, I hope he goes and balls the hell out. That'd be awesome. Sign me up. Just hasn't been that way. We're 2.5 years in. It's time. It's now or never. Got to find a way. And to me, I would love to see at minimum a lot more competition at that spot. Some other miscellaneous notes. Eric Stokes, basically benched. We've been calling for that. It basically happened. 4 plays in this game. Carrington Valentine played 64. So they finally went to that change. We'll see how both of those players, specifically Carrington Valentine, grade out. Thought it was a little bit up and down. Thought there was a couple plays here and there from Valentine that looked good. Did give up some completions. Did miss a couple tackles here and there. So we'll see how he ultimately grades out. But still overall happy to see Valentine over Stokes in this one. Xavier McKinney, as mentioned, probably had his toughest day as a Packer. A couple of really big missed tackles. Rashawn Gary, great to see him get a couple of those pressures in some big spots, and hopefully that is a harbinger of things to come for Rashawn Gary. Need him to have a phenomenal second half of the year. Some signs in this one, if nothing else. Your inactives for the game were Colby Wooden, who had the injury, Travis Glover, Katano Oladapo, and then Robert Rochelle, despite getting put on the active roster, was your other inactive. Jair seemed to be the only noteworthy injury, at least that we know of. It was reported by Ian Rappaport that it's nothing severe. So hopefully he can, get back sooner rather than later, but he clearly was not ready to go on this one. They probably should have sat him out and just got him healthy. We'll see if there was any setback or if, in this week he can get back to where he needs to be to actually play against San Fran, but it's clearly been a troubling issue for Jair so far. Bad penalties by the refs in this one. The Xavier McKinney personal foul penalty was brutal. The missed DeAndre Swift false start was like, what are we doing here? Bad. Like, that's about as bad as I've ever seen. And then I even thought the encroachment on LVN looked like the offensive lineman moved simultaneously, and that usually goes against the offensive lineman. So some bad penalties in this one and then Green Bay was really deserving of. And of course, you've got the 49ers coming up next. They have a loss to Seattle right at the death of that game. They're going to be a desperate San Francisco team coming in that really needs a win to kind of keep their playoff hopes alive. And Green Bay, on the flip side, has the opportunity to take one of their arch nemesis, and really kind of knock them down. And hopefully you don't have to ever see them in the playoffs, right? So this is a huge opportunity for Green Bay to pick up another win and to really knock San Francisco down, potentially, out of that playoff range if things keep going poorly for San Fran. But really big game coming up. Nick Bosa did suffer an injury in that game, and it does seem very questionable as to whether or not he's going to be able to play against Green Bay or not. That'll be a very major story to monitor through the course of this week as to whether or not he's going to be able to go. Lots of work to do. As I mentioned, Green Bay's fate is not decided. Win or lose in this game, good, bad, or ugly, there's a lot of time left in the season, and those deficiencies have to start coming up and being better, and the things that they do well have to continue to be strengths. Now, there were some good things that happened in this game, not enough of them, and there's definitely a lot of work still to be done. Can they get that work done the remainder of the season to go on their best run come playoff time? That's a question that will have to remain to be answered. Luigi's Victory Monday, make sure to get your tweets in, hashtag Luigi's Victory Monday, LUIGES, and make sure to follow Luigi's Pizza at Luigi's Pizza. Shout out to our Hall of Fame and All-Pro members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Jennifer Wright, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, Dave McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Swanger, Naldo Espinoza, Peter Ataka, SoCal Pack, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Puerto Rican Packer, and Dan Gesford. Enjoy your Victory Monday, everyone. We will have a very fun week coming up with discussing Packers-Bears and looking forward to Packers-49ers. Should be a really fun one. Our normal guests, live shows, all of it. Make sure to be there. Like, subscribe, comment, give those 5-star reviews. I will see you all very soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.